Hi, everyone. I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes to get logged into this webinar. Um, but in the meantime, I'll go ahead and share my screen with you. Let me know if you guys can see that or not. Okay. Thank you for the webinar, How to Write a Professional and Effective CV. We'll cover all the topics of everything that you need to include when you're writing your CV, and we'll talk a little bit about what to include in your cover letter as well. Please note that this evening your microphones will be muted. However, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A box, and Rainey and myself will answer those at the end of this presentation. So we'll go ahead and start off. What's a CV versus a cover letter? You really have to include in each of them. So for a CV, you would want to any training, any education, licenses and certifications, any experiences professionally that you have, and then any qualifications that relate to what you're applying for. Versus a cover letter, you really just want to express your interest, highlight all of your strengths, and then any professional goals that you have. So the biggest thing for writing the CV is the organization and writing. Practice Match does free CV reviews. Myself and Rainey, who is in this meeting as well, she does most of the reviews. I help out here and there. But the one thing that we notice the most is making sure everything is organized and formatted correctly. So you want to make sure that everything is professional and really easy to read, and it's organized and consistent. So you want to make sure your font is all the same depending on the headings and the subjects. You'll want to make sure they're around 10 to 12 point fonts because you really don't want your CV to be more than 6 pages long. So making sure that that font is all around the same will allow you to put all the information in there effectively. You'll want to make sure it's an easy to read font, such as the one here, Times New Roman, Arial, anything that's clear and easy to read. And you'll also want to make sure that it's a dark color and avoid using a lot of italicized words, underlines, or colors. So basically, when you're doing your CV, you don't want to have yellow or red writing. You want to make sure it's like gray or preferably black writing. So that way, when they print it out or when they're looking at your CV, everything again is easy to read and it's not like yellow. If you've ever read something with yellow writing, it's very hard to read when there's a lot to read at once. So making sure it's dark color is great. And then you'll want to make sure that, capitalization, any spelling errors are corrected. The date formatting is a big thing too when you're putting any dates on any of your training, which we'll touch on that in a few slides, to make sure that you include the year and um, the month and the year for your training and residency fellowship, anything like that. You also want to make sure that spacing is organized and that bullets or sentences, it's consistent. So if you're using bullet point, you don't want to do a couple bullet points and then a sentence, and periods or no periods. So sometimes we'll see a lot of people that use bullet points and then throw in a sentence here and there. You want to make sure you're doing one or the other and not kind of mixing it up a little bit. Because again, if you're doing one or the other, it looks very organized, very well written, and it's easy to read. Like I said, once you start reading a CV and you're reading multiple, there's so much information that you want to make sure that it's very organized. So we'll touch base on these in each of the next slides. However, these are the order of the headings that you want to use. You'll want your header, your postgraduate training, education, any professional experience. Then you'll want to add your licenses and certifications. any professional memberships, any of your honors and reward awards, and then any research, presentations, abstracts, or publications that you have done that relate or that would be good for the hirer to know. And then it's optional that you can add languages and hobbies on there. You don't have to, but um, it's nice if you're putting a hobby on there in an area that you're not very familiar with, and maybe the person hiring can touch base on that and give a little bit more to talk about other than just your CV if you're called back for a um, in-person meeting. I always say to only list emails and phone numbers and any method of contact that is current and that you want to be contacted with. A lot of people will use separate emails. I'm one of those people. I use a separate email for work and a separate email for personal. So that way everything's organized in different folders for those emails. So when you're applying for jobs, you're sending your CV in for being reviewed by us. You want to make sure that you're using the email that you want to be contacted with and that is for that topic. So that way everything can be together. So now we'll go into each of the following headers. The first for your header, you'll want to put your full name and your degree. So whether that be MD or DO. You'll want to put your full mailing address, phone number, and email. That's really all you need. You want to avoid putting your headshot in there, or you want to avoid putting, titling it a CV because it's very obvious that what it is and you're sending. So you want to avoid that. You'll want to avoid your citizenship status and your birthday and social security number. For the next, you'll want to do your postgraduate training. I always say do these in order from the most recent to the least recent. So where you're at currently, you'll want to list them in reverse chronological order. So you'll do fellowship, residency, and then any internships you've done. Again, another big thing is you'll want to make sure that you do the month and the year for each of these. So you'll want the starting month and year and the finishing month and year. This is a really big one that we see a lot of people leave out or they only put years on there. You will 9 times out of 10 be asked anyway what month that you started this. So you'll always want to make sure to include that just so that way all the bases are covered before going into an interview. You'll want to include your specialty and program type, your program name, and the city and the state that that's in. Another thing that people will do is they will leave out the city that your program's in. You'll want to always include that. Sometimes they'll only do state, but you'll always want to include the city and the state at the bottom of that. For education, same thing. You'll always want to do the most recent to the least recent. So you'll do medical school and then your undergrad. Again, you'll want to do the month and the year, the finishing month and the finishing year. You want to put in there what degree you obtained, the institution name, and again, the city and state. A lot of people, there will be some that list more in detail about, anything before your undergrad. It's completely up to you, but it is not necessary. And it's one of those things that can be left out because really they only look for your undergrad and after, like your undergrad and medical school. So for your professional experience, you'll want to again list those in chronological order. Always, always, always for anything that you're doing in your CV, list the most recent to the least recent. So again, you'll want to put the starting month and year and the finishing month and year. You'll want to put your title, your employer, and then the city and state. Um, any like I put some notes down at the bottom, but anything medically related to your work history dating back to when you were in med school, you'll want to include that in there. It's not necessary to list residency and fellowship again, since you listed that previously at the beginning. And it's only necessary to list non medical employment if it if there's a gap in your training or experience. A lot of times, again, why it's important to list the month and the years, because a lot of times that people will take breaks and they will more than likely ask you about that anyway. So making sure that your bases are covered, um, and adding that in there just so that way they don't wander and don't have to ask you and go out of their way. It's all listed, and it's all listed in chronological reverse chronological order. You'll also need to be prepared to explain any gaps over 30 days in an interview, because they really do look at that. Um, and again, always make sure it's listed so that way all your bases are covered prior to going into an interview. So, what you'll want to list in licenses is any state you're licensed in, any states that you have been licensed in, and any states that you have applied for a license. You can list those license and then do like a dash and then list the status of each license. So, whether that status is active, pending, or expired. Um, and then you'll list the expiration date, of course, and then any DEA license if that applies to you. For certifications, you'll want to make sure to list any board certification and status. You'll want to list any exams taken that you passed with those dates. So it's not necessary to list those if you did not pass the exams. You'll only want to make sure that those are listed if you pass them. And then you'll want to list any current certifications, such as ACLS, ATLS, BCLS, or PLAS with the issue date. Always, always, always make sure you're including the date. Again, starting month and or the month and the year. So you'll want to list any honors and awards as well. Anything that is medically related to any honors or awards that you have received from, you can honestly date those back until from undergrad and up. So anything that is related to that, I would recommend putting that in there. For professional memberships, again, anything that is medically related to organizations and societies that you are in currently, I would go ahead and list those as well. For any research, presentations, publications, I would use the appropriate format for citing those, just so, again, they can go in and look at those. Um, and I would honestly, if it doesn't relate to it, it's okay to leave it out. But if you're doing the hard work to do those already, I would go ahead and make sure that they are cited in your CV, so that way that the employer can go and look at those. And if there's a lot of items that is making your CV too long, like I noted before, you don't want it to be super, super long. So I would say 6 pages max. I would just do the ones that are most relevant to whatever opportunity you're applying for. So, any additional tips that I would give and Practice Match recommends is you can list any languages and hobbies if you'd like as another header under or behind all of those. Again, this is really nice because I know some recruiting firms do, when they're looking at CVs that were submitted for a job, if there's any hobbies listed or anything of that such, they will look at what's in the area and kind of show you, especially if you're not familiar, or maybe you are familiar with the area, but you're not familiar with certain parts of the area that have these hobbies, or certain parts of the areas that are best to go to for these hobbies. They would more than likely talk about that in your interview and also give you good recommendations. Again, it's just a little topic that you can talk about aside from just your CV when you're in an interview. You can also add a footer to your CV using the last name and page number if you'd like. It's not necessary at all. However, I know a lot of people do like to do that, especially if their CV isn't as long as others. They want to make sure to add a footer to it as well. Always remember to review your document for spelling errors, consistency, and alignment. I know I said this before. However, when we get a lot of CVs in for review, they really do look great half of the time. The only thing that we ever really correct on or have to correct on is just small spelling errors, and different parts of alignment, or maybe they forgot to add the training year, something like that. Um, 9 times out of 10, that is the first thing that we catch on there. And then you'll always wanna save your CV as a PDF format. I would recommend saving it as your last name, first name, your specialty, and then your CV. If you have multiple specialty, or if you've done fellowship under multiple specialties, I would go ahead and put the specialty that for the job that you're applying for or the job that you're interested in, whatever is relevant. You can always add them both, or you could always just do your last name, first name, and then .cv. That way, when again you're applying for a job in a position, it's right there on the subject and they can pull that up easily. They can access it easy. And it really just looks consistent and professional when you add it that way. So I've listed a couple practice match resources that we have to offer. If you guys are familiar with practice match, you probably already know a lot of these. However, sometimes they get overlooked, or you're only looking at the CV reviewer, the CV builder, and not really familiar with the other ones. So we do a CV review and a CV builder. So we'll really typically start with the CV review. You can also go to our website and do the CV builder yourself. However, the CV review is done by Rainey, who is also on this call. And then when you do that CV builder, there's a lot more information on the website about that, to basically what I went over, and then more. It helps you basically guide you in the direction of what to include where on your CV builder. We also offer scholarships. These change very frequently as scholarships become available to us. We'll make sure to post those on the website. We also have a nationwide job board. This job board is amazing. You can search it by your specialty, your location, your visa status. You can basically go down to the very, very tip of what you want to look for in a job. Um, it's very nice that you can do that. You can filter it to exactly what you're looking for to find jobs in certain areas, certain organizations, everything. We also have our physician career guidebook. If you ever see us in person at a conference, we always have them. However, you are also able to download a PDF version copy, that will be emailed to you. Same with the physician immigration handbook. You can download a copy as well to be emailed to you. We do career fairs. Any physicians that are in training, so like residents and fellows, always will get gift cards for attending and like connecting with recruiters during these fairs. However, a lot of our specialty fairs, we do open that for all physicians, to practicing and not practicing, to get that be eligible for that gift card for attending. We do the physician promoter ambassador program. So, if you are in the ambassador program and you're attending this webinar, you will know that I am the one who runs the ambassador program. It's just a way for physicians in training to earn more gift cards just by inviting their colleagues to the career fair, sharing our events, and sharing the flyer in their break rooms, stuff like just trying to get the word out, stuff like that. Our ambassador program also is the first to be notified of any new offers like that we offer, any resources. They're the first to be notified. We also do webinars, such as the one you're on. We do personal ones, and then we also partner. And you'll note here we did our past topics. So we do interview tips, job search timeline. We partner with Resolve for contract negotiation. We'll have a couple on that topic coming up. We'll also have different types of CV reviews like the one we're on now. We'll do student loan assistance. We also partner with Elisa Tubb from Siskin and Susser. She helps with the physician immigration handbook. She actually was one of the authors on that. And then she'll also host very good immigration law webinars for that. And then we also have a mobile app, so you can access all the resources that we have above, as well as our job board wherever you are at the touch of your fingertips. A lot of people are not familiar with the mobile app. until we tell them about it and kind of push them on that. It is newer. So if that's something that interests you to have all these resources at the touch of your fingertips, go ahead and download that mobile app. I believe it is on the website, but I believe it's just, you can just type in Practice Match in your app store. Um, and yeah, we really do a little bit of everything. We try to cover all bases for physicians in training and to prepare for, like, help physicians prepare for after training as well. So, and if you have any questions, you can contact myself or Rainey. Like I noted, I do the ambassador program and handle physician resources. Rainey helps with the physician resources and does all the CV reviews. So if you are looking for your CV to be reviewed, we will be sending out an email after this. This will be recorded. So you can watch this back, and then you'll also have the information on how to submit your CV for Rainey to be reviewed. So if you have any questions, we'll go ahead and see. I think there's one in the Q&A. Any problem? Give me 1 second here. And Rainey, if you have anything you want to add on the CV reviews, please do, since you will um, be the one reviewing those. I'm pulling up my Q&A and it looks like some have already been answered, so I'm just going through those to make sure.
Yeah, to go off the any pros and cons for listing steps 1, 2, and 3, I think that's optional on your CV, but it would definitely be helpful if you have high scores. That might strengthen your overall look on your CV. If your scores are really high, it's something you could brag about, but it definitely is optional. I wouldn't say you have to, but like I said, it could be something to make yourself look good.
Yeah, and I like piggybacking off of that. I would definitely want to add that in any of your certifications or license area. Again, it's not recommend or it's not mandatory, but I would recommend it, especially if you have higher scores. You can just list those in, uh, like I said, reverse chronological order and the orders that you took, the most recent and then least recent. Um, and then you could just do a dash and then your score. And then again, put your the date that you took it or the date that you passed. I wouldn't necessarily say you would have to put the full date. I would go ahead and just put the month and the year. So that way they know obviously what month and year you took it. But again, it's not, like Rainey said, it's not mandatory. However, especially if you have good scores, I would definitely include that in there. Okay. Someone asked, how can we get our CV reviewed by your team or our team? We will be sending out a recap email on this webinar, and that information will be in that webinar. You can just go to our website, and there's a place for you to submit your CV for review on there, and Rainey will get that reviewed for you. Yes, the recording of this webinar and slides will be posted. So it takes about 24 hours to get the recording back, and then we post it. So it will be posted by the end of next week for sure. Again, we will be sending out an email with that recording in there as well for you guys to have. Um, so I would do, I'm going to go back in my slides here. I would probably list, Dimitri, I would probably list them. You can do a separate subsection. However, I would put them in between I would put them in between maybe or you can honestly even put them in your education, but I would put them in between that or on your license and certifications page, depending on what other, certifications you have. Um, yeah, I would recommend putting it in those subsections. However, if you wanna make a separate subsection, that's completely fine too. There be any detail of professional experiences, i.e., research jobs that include or involves responsibilities or achievements, or should this be limited to the research publication section? Yes. So I would limit that to the research and publication section since it's all under that same topic. Um, Especially if, I mean, depending on the research job that you're in, it's still research. So I would definitely put that in that section for sure. Okay. Yeah, and I know this was already answered, but why avoid citizenship status a mess these days? Yeah, like Rainey said, the information isn't super relevant when you're a recruiter looking for um, a lot of CVs at once. And like she noted, they can't really legally consider the citizenship status when making any decisions. So again, um, it's one of those things that they don't really for at first. So you can go ahead and leave that in. However, if you are on a J1, B1, or any type of work visas, you'll want to include that in your licenses um, section. And then someone asked why you don't recommend putting a headshot. It's just another thing that isn't necessary for recruiters to see. They're only looking for your information, your training, any experience, the licenses, and if you can be hired there. They're not looking for um, your headshot, like what you look like or where you're from or anything like that. I think all of these questions have been answered. If there's any more questions, you guys can go ahead and put those in the Q&A. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. However, um, as I noted, this will be recorded. You will get an email, a recap email of this with the recording, and any other information you need to update your CV, how to do it on our website so that way Rainy can review that for you. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out even after this webinar with the emails that were sent. And I had two come in. So professional experiences, straight out of residency, we barely have any. What should really be there? So that is one thing that I did not know and I should have. If there is anything that any of these headings that don't relate to you or you don't have anything, that's completely fine. You can leave those out. These are just the headings that you should include if you do have the information to put there. Um, but again, it's it's not super common to have a ton straight out of residency. Um, so it's completely fine if you don't have any professional experiences. So it is okay for you to leave that out if there isn't any. If I am in residency and working on a certification, lifestyle medicine, should I include it or wait until the certification is complete? No, I would definitely include it. Anything that is current, you can put on there current. So if there's not a date or if there is a start date, I don't know, say you started it or say you started in February and just going off of this month, you can put on there February 2025 and then dash current. So that way they know that you're currently doing that. Um, And once it's complete, you can obviously go in and update that on your CV for the next time you need to use it. But I would definitely include it and put current on there. So if all jobs prior were research related and there are multiple, they should be listed under research, not professional experiences. I if you have any jobs that are research related, yes, I would put them under research. However, this is another one of those things that if your CV is not very long, if it is, like I said, a max of probably 6 pages is the farthest I would go. If it is not super long, you can list them in both. The only thing that, like, you can list it in research and, uh, yeah, you can list that in, sorry, I had another question come in. You can list that under professional experiences and research. However, if your CV is pushing the 6 pages, it's not necessary for you to put them both in there. However, the main thing that they don't want to see repetitiveness from is basically your education or any of your postgraduate training. You don't want to put, your fellowship, residency, and internship in multiple other headings when that's just one topic and covers one thing. I'm currently working on multiple projects. Do I list those at the beginning of the research section or bring them up earlier? You would do those in reverse chronological order. So the most recent to the least recent. So if you're currently on working on multiple, yes, put them at the top. So like I said, if the most recent to the least recent, first to last. So if there's one that you started maybe in February and there's one you started in January, I would list the February one first, then January, and then go on from there. Is it okay if the bullet points for a particular experience spill over from one page to the next, or should I try to avoid the experiences being split up on different pages? No, it's completely okay if the bullet points for a particular experience go to the next page. Um, if it is avoidable, you can try to avoid it if you want, whatever you think looks best. However, we do see CV reviews that have them go over to the next page, and that's completely okay. Okay. I'm not seeing any new questions come in, monitoring a little bit. But again, to be repetitive, this will be emailed to you. You guys will get a recap email with all of this information and our contacts for you guys to reach out to us at any time with any questions, whether it be about this topic or any of our other resources. We are here to help you guys and provide the best resources for you guys during and after your training. So if there is no other questions, I'm not seeing any come in. I'll go ahead and let you guys go. We do have a career fair happening at 4 p.m. and this career fair is for neurology and neurosurgery. So if that is your specialty and you guys want to join, feel free to join that. And we will get this information sent over to you next week so you guys can go back and look at it any time. Thank you guys for joining tonight and taking the time to listen in. Bye.